Hello and welcome to the Best in Class Insights series. I'm Rebecca Hammond, and joining me is Insights Director Alex McIntosh and Research Director Aaron Gleave. We are so excited because today we're going to be talking about our ambulatory EMR spaces, and we are going to dive right in. Welcome both of you. Excited to be able to talk about these spaces with you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
All right, so first, let's dive into the 11 to 75 physician space with ambulatory EMR. How would you characterize the energy in this space? What are you seeing in terms of the leaders and laggards in this space? Talk us through what's happening here.
I would say the energy remains steady. So, I mean, it's not exploding by any means. This is obviously a legacy segment that we've had for a long time at KLAS, and it just remains steady. We see fluctuations anywhere from 10 to 20% of replacements in this market, and those reasons are changing and ebbing and flowing, but they are happening.
That's so interesting. So what is really driving the decisions in this space? As you're saying it's steady, what's driving that people to make changes here?
Well, when you do see decisions, they're often they center around acquisitions, integration with other solutions, other hospitals, other key provider facilities in the area, which drives a lot of the decisions that we see. Additionally, we're seeing and starting to hear more about multi-specialty functionality and solutions that better meet clinicians' needs for workflows.
So what are some of those keys to success? You mentioned a few. What else is really driving that success for certain vendors in this space? Yeah,
really, in this space, you start to see those provider organizations that really need the functionality for multi-specialties that can really work with their workflows, deliver what the providers need at the point of care so that they can deliver a higher quality of care. And those vendors that are really doing well with those specialties are obviously those ones that are performing very highly in best in class and have a lot of provider interest overall.
Interesting. So Aaron, tell us about some of those vendors. Alex mentions what those keys to success are. So who are the vendors that are really encapsulating those experiences?
Yeah, so I mean, for this space, it continues to be dominated by two leading vendors. You've got Athena Health, and then we've got NextGen. And those two vendors push really hard on achieving customer excellence in this area. They both approach it from slightly different perspectives, but they still go at the same focus. NextGen historically has been very heavily focused on specialties, multi-specialty functionality, and Athena has made great strides in that area as well over the last few years. So it's typically a hotly contested space.
So interesting. Well, let's shift for a moment and look at the larger ambulatory EMR space. So these will be organizations that are utilizing EMRs that are over 75 physicians. So now, there's a little bit of a different story here, some different players that we're looking at. So is the energy different here from the smaller market? How is that different as you're looking at the larger space?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rebecca. I think the biggest thing we encounter is kind of that enterprise influence, right? Where you've got health system owned large ambulatory clinics and those groups that are affiliated with health systems. And that's probably, I would say, the number one dynamic that changes kind of these decisions and where providers tend to go. And so obviously you've got the Epic, the Cerner, and Meditech now is doing some really interesting things here as well. And so those players kind of, you see their presence a lot just because of that enterprise influence around the decision making.
So building off of that, as we look at that decision making, what are some of the drivers here in this space?
More than even the mid-sized market, we do see a lot of requirements around integration. These are the largest practices in the country looking to share information. They're often affiliated with large hospital groups or with they have themselves clinics throughout the state or throughout the region or throughout the country, and they really need those integrative capabilities to share the data and pass the data back and forth for their patients to deliver care.
So Alex, you mentioned integration obviously being critical to success here. What other considerations are buyers looking at when considering vendors that really drive success?
Yeah, anything that helps them improve efficiency. They're looking to get through the patient encounters to help providers deliver that quality of care. Again, the multi-specialty functionality, provider workflows. Ease of use is obviously really high, well, regardless of size, but it really comes into effect. We really see large effects in the large practice space because you have a lot of providers delivering care within these clinics, and they're looking to be as efficient as possible while still delivering a high quality of care.
So with that, Aaron, talk through some of the vendors in this space. Who's really leading the charge here? Anybody losing steam? What are we seeing with the vendors here?
Yeah, so outside of those enterprise players that we mentioned, it's important to note that Athena and NextGen are still right there pushing hard on the large ambulatory independent space as well. And so they continue to maintain a strong presence there. But what's really interesting is to see some of this specialty focused trend happening. And so we're watching that carefully because vendors like ModMed or Nextech that are heavily focused on some of the more dynamic specialties are really starting to make some traction with these larger groups that have been acquired through VC funds and kind of become a conglomerate. And so we're starting to see that, and you can't ignore that trend because in large independent ambulatory, these guys are starting to show up, but it's very specialty focused, like ophthalmology, orthopedics, tied to therapy, tied to ASC, those types of things. And so that's a dynamic we're watching there as well.
Thank you both for joining me for our discussion today, and thank you for joining us for our Best in Class series. For more information on the ambulatory EMR space, feel free to reach out to our experts here or go to KLASresearch.com.